Who's at fault if a driverless car crashes? Plus EVs, Kevin Hart's 1,000 brake horsepower muscle car, and the Bronco Raptor. When it comes to car news, it's been relatively quiet recently, but suddenly the car world has gone crazy. Lots going on in the automotive world at the moment, so I thought in this video I'd bring you guys an essential roundup of car stuff that you really need to know. We'll look at why there aren't enough new cars to go around, new and old electric cars that are in the pipeline, or should that be cable, and a bunch of dirty old school motors, including the Bronco Raptor and Hollywood star Kevin Hart's latest muscle car. First up, there's no more new cars. That's it. Pack up, go home, stop what I'm doing. Khalas. Nah, come on. I'll never stop doing this. Sorry. I'm joking, of course, about the new cars, but only slightly. You see, a modern car needs between 1,500 and 3,000 computer chips in it to manage the engine, electronics, safety systems, etc. Basically, there's a lot of fries with that burger. And the trouble is, there's just not enough of them to go around right now, especially when those chips go into pretty much everything else that we buy, from computers to phones to smart TVs to, I don't know, hair dryers. And have you seen those Ray-Ban Stories smart glasses, the ones with the cameras in them? Do you think those are a bit creepy, or should I get a pair? Anyway, let's look at, for example, car production in the UK, which in 2021 was at its lowest level since 1956, according to the SMMT. That's the Society for Motor Manufacturers and Traders. Yeah, 1956, 65 years earlier. To be fair though, Britain had a lot more car companies back then. Anyway, we made less cars last year than in 2020, the big lockdown year, when no one was going out or driving or anything. Just over 859,000 vehicles were produced in 2021. That's over 60,000 less than the previous year. In fact, this is actually a global issue, with chip shortage expected to last at least well into the first half of this year, though we are expected to see production back up to over 1 million vehicles this year in the UK. I tell you what though, low car production numbers are not stopping manufacturers announcing new cars. More about that in a minute, but first, if in the future you're in your autonomous car, a driverless car that is, and it has a crash or an incident, who's at fault? You or the car? Well, a couple of days ago, the Law Commissions for Scotland, England and Wales issued a joint report that called for driving law reforms that would mean that users, interesting they say users not drivers, but it means the people in the driving seat, would be immune from prosecution if anything went wrong while the car was in autonomous mode. So basically, if the car has an incident, or even if it appears to be speeding or supposedly driving dangerously, you, the user, would not be held responsible. Although be aware, this refers to full autonomous and driverless systems. So literally, when you've handed over control to the car and are napping or reading a book or watching my videos on YouTube. To be completely honest though, while some certain car makers might claim it, I don't believe any such full autonomous cars exist at present. And I don't think we will have driverless systems at least for another decade, or maybe more likely 2 decades. By the way, the law will make a distinction between driver assistance systems and those fully autonomous systems. So if you're using some of those so-called autopilot systems on the motorway, the adaptive cruise control, you're technically still in charge and responsible. Likewise, I'm guessing that also applies to automatic parking systems. Those always freak me out. They always cutting too close to the other cars. I never use them. Now, these kind of rulings, if universally and globally accepted, will mean the blame will always be with the car manufacturer because of the systems. In other words, the manufacturers will be liable. Now, with litigation-happy America likely to be a major concern for car makers, I'd say autonomous cars are likely to be pushed even further down the road, if you see what I mean. They won't put these systems out to market until they are perfect. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. Now, notwithstanding the slowdown in car production, electric car demand is continuing to surge. UK electrified vehicle output, for example, was up nearly 30% last year, with just pure electric cars alone up 72%. So the trend, which was started to be fair, to a large extent by Tesla, has really caught on with the major car makers over the last couple of years. And I reckon 2022 will be a banner year for electric cars, even though I maintain we still don't quite have the infrastructure here to charge them all. More on that in a minute. Bentley, for example, just announced that they would be launching a new electric car each year for 5 years from 2025, making them fully electric by 2030. They will also be aiming to go carbon neutral in production by then in various ways, for example, by installing a bunch of solar panels at their production plant in Crewe. But hang on a minute, Bentley currently has 3 models in its range, right? The Continental, the Flying Spur, which is essentially the 4-door version of the same, and the Bentayga SUV. So what are these 5 going to be? Okay, let's say replacement for each of these current cars. That still leaves 2. Let's say one of those is a new supercar. That leaves the 5th car. Wait a minute. Because they'll probably be using the Volkswagen ID platforms, are they going to be making another smaller Bentley crossover? Especially now that I look at this picture closely. I mean, what car is that meant to be? What do you think? Anyway, one of the electric car pioneers and biggest selling EVs out there is actually the Nissan Leaf, but they don't seem to have done much else with electric cars, Nissan that is. However, this is the new Ariya, it's an EV crossover, and now they've just put out this teaser image. It's an all-new electric car that will succeed the Micra and will be built in France by Renault. The platform for both of these is shared with the Leaf, however. BMW, of course, are already introducing new electric cars to their BMW and Mini ranges, but talking of Mini, they're not only looking forwards, but they're looking backwards too. The Mini Recharge project is converting classic Minis to electric. This is by Mini themselves, citing the fact that if Mini creator Alika Sigonis created his iconic car today, it would be electric. Now, I've been covering a lot of electric classic car conversions lately, call them retro electric, call them electromod, whatever, including driving and reviewing an original Porsche 356 converted to electric. That review is on this channel, do check it out, along with other videos on the subject. Now, that same company that did that conversion, Electrogenic, also are converting Minis. You know those tourist Minis that you can hire in central London? Well, they're doing those ones. Now, BMW's own Mini Recharge project hasn't revealed the full details or cost of the conversion or when you can get these. They're still developing them. But it gets a 90 kilowatt motor and has a 100-mile range with a 0 to 62 mile per hour acceleration time of 9 seconds. You can see the charging point at the back of the car. Talking of charging, where in the UK is the best place to own an electric car? London? Nah. In fact, it's in the heartland of the UK's spiritual home of car manufacturing. That's Coventry. According to comparethemarket.com, Coventry is the best place to own an electric car because it has nearly 41 chargers for every 100 vehicles in the city. Then you have, and I can't pronounce this, Nailnansiar, this place, that's in Scotland. They're second with 39 charges. Then Brighton and Hove in the southeast at 32. Westminster in London came in at fourth with 29 charges. And then the Isle of Anglesey in Wales at 28. Now the worst place, the Isles of Scilly with 0 charges. Come on guys, don't be silly. Sorry, couldn't help that. That was bad, wasn't it? Then Stockport at 0.1, gosh, Swindon at 0.26, that's a surprise actually because it's a home of car production, Slough at 0.33 and Peterborough at 0.39. But you know, when we talk about having a positive impact on the environment when it comes to electric cars, you've got to look at the real giants, the biggest markets in the world. And that would be China at 20 million vehicles sold last year, and then the US at 15 million vehicles. Now the US is very slow moving in this direction by comparison. I discussed that in a previous video on US car sales recently on this channel, go check that out. As for China, Global Data predicts that in its latest report that China will not only maintain but grow its dominance in the electric car sector. I mean, get a load of this. In 2020, 48%, yes, nearly half of all the EVs in the world were in China. They already had more electric cars than all of Europe and the US combined. In 2021, 3.3 million electric vehicles were sold there. So just get your head around that. And that 40% figure is predicted to rise to 60% by 2030. Yes, 60% of all electric cars in the world. This is thanks to growing demand and easy access to raw materials. You know, that controversial stuff they need to make the batteries. Ford, what's up with not bringing the Bronco here to the UK? Come on, you right-hand drive the Mustang and bring that here to great success. And this all-new, all-kicking action hero off-roader is another example of Ford getting retro right. It just looks so cool, and by all accounts, it is brilliant. Okay, let's be honest. we here probably wouldn't use a fraction of its ability, particularly than this next one that I'm going to talk about, but who cares? We still want it. And Ford, you can easily do this. It's based on the Ranger after all, and you already bring that here. Come on, Jeep sell the Wrangler here. Surely you're missing out. Anyway, if and when you do bring it, you've got to bring this latest version that's just been released, because this is the most powerful Bronco ever with over 400 brake horsepower. Plus, it's got race-ready suspension and a high-strength steel frame with 37-inch all-terrain tires. How come? Because this is the Raptor version, of course. It's 9.8 inches wider than the regular Bronco, so forget about going through width restrictions here. Just go over them. But the width is there to aid high-speed cornering. Everything from the Fox dampers to the transfer case to the extended control arms to, well, everything is stronger, better, over-engineered for racing and jumping. Basically, this thing is awesome. Just bring it Ford. Talking of muscly beasts, let's talk about Kevin Hart. No, he's the little one in this picture. A comedian and a big Hollywood movie star. A couple of years ago, he was in a really bad crash in his 700 brake horsepower 1970 Plymouth Barracuda resto-mod muscle car. And he did end up with really serious back injuries. So you would question then whether it's a good idea that he's just taken delivery of a 940 brake horsepower Whipple supercharged Hemi V8 powered 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner. I mean, talk about tempting fate twice. Gotta say though, Kev, cool car, mate. This bespoke commission car has come out of Wisconsin-based Salvaggio Design Workshop with that monster of a motor, custom carbon fiber pieces, and finished in matte black with orange highlighting. It's got the modern wheels behind the traditional hubcaps, 18s at the front and 20s at the back, and more pertinently, a roll cage. There's a custom CAD design frame, shaved dripped rails, carbon fiber bonnet and bumpers, billeted solid aluminum parts including the grille, dormer and handles, LED lights, and again, rather importantly, big Brembo brakes. He even had a custom belt, wallet and Nike shoes made to go with it. So when you've got your awesome muscle car like Kevin's, or an operatic Italian exotic, or a screaming JDM car, where can you take it to get the best out of the sound that it makes? Where can you get the full impact of its sensational sonorous sounds? A tunnel, of course. But where? And which one? Now in the UAE, I knew exactly where. Up on the road from Dubai to Kalba, the Wadi Hilo tunnel, that's the one I would use. It was fantastic. Good times that. Though I think there's a magnificent new one now up in Khor Fakkan. I think we actually went through there when it was still being built. That's a spooky story for another day. But what about here in the UK? Well, Alfa Romeo has done the hard work for us, taking in a Stelvio, Quadrifoglio and experts from acoustic specialist Sandy Brown. They went in search of the best tunnels for sound. They measured the engine and exhaust sounds along with the tire, road and wind noise with the passenger window down. Then they combined it with some subjectivity, which probably accounted to going, whoa, wow, wow! And they used all that to work out which was the best. So in third place is Beamister in Dorset, which is 105 meters long. The tunnel has a narrow U-shaped design, which bounces back the sound with crystal clarity. Second was Saltash in Cornwall, which is only a 30 miles per hour limit, but manages to cut out wind noise by being slower. It's longer too at 410 meters. In first place was, it's a Welsh name. Here goes. Penmanbach. This one. It's in North Wales. It's a decent 658 meters long and has a U-shaped profile, but also a good road surface and one-way traffic. I fancy a road trip. Are you coming? Hey, if you know any good tunnels or even great driving roads for that matter, let me know in the comments below. A big shout out and thanks to Jay Williams over at Air Technic, who are my top tier sponsors. Check them out at airtechnic.co.uk for exhaust, brakes, suspension and body kits. Plus my other major sponsor, Riverhall. Much appreciation also to my tier 4 sponsors, Muhammad Ali Hamed and Tom Conway Gordon. And of course all of these other guys who are supporting me on Patreon. I am eternally grateful because without you, I can't be creating all this content. Hey, think about joining them. Head over to patreon.com/browncarguy. If you can't, don't worry. Just make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and my website. Plus follow me on all social media channels by searching for #BrownCarGuy.